So, unfortunately, it's another sad day for the video game industry. If you like any of the games you guys are seeing right over here, if you're a fan of Visceral games, well, they're basically being separated and shuttered by EA. The company is being separated because, well, the Star Wars game that they were working on didn't really been turning out the way EA wanted to, and I guess that was the cut that EA had to just say, like, hey, we're not making any more Dead Space games. We're not going to do anything with the Dante's Inferno license. We're not doing any more like movie tie-in games. So they used to actually do the Lord of the Ring games, and well, some of them. There's been a lot of Lord of the Ring games, and the Lord of the Rings, like the one back in the day, the Lord of the Rings: The Return of the King. That was a fairly good game on the PlayStation 2, Xbox. I was about to say Xbox One, but this is original Xbox. GameCube, and so on and so forth, were games I really had fun with, and I like Visceral. I like what they were able to do with the Dead Space franchise. I mean, in fact, they were actually going by a different name for a long time. It was EA Red Shores, but EA changed the name, and they started up all these good games that I personally liked, and now here we are. They started working on Star Wars, and Star Wars is a big moneymaker name, big license, and when things are not going good with Star Wars, EA just says, get the band hammer down, and we're just smashing the studio apart. We're going to put these developers over here, and the rest of you guys got to find new jobs. And that's just kind of sad seeing from a game developer that's been around for such a long time. I mean, Visceral has been around since 1998, basically, like, you know, as a company, even with the name changes. That's a long time to be in the video game industry and to see them all be separated. Yes, they're an in-house studio and EA could do this. It doesn't mean that I feel good about it. I mean, like I said, I like the games they made in the past. I know not some of them are not the highest reviewed games ever, but they were decent and good games, and I wanted to see what was going to come from them in the future. And as somebody who is a fan, like I said, of Dante's Inferno, of the Dead Space franchise, I would have liked to see them touch those franchises back again sometimes down the line, or if not, even a new IP would have been nice. But having them just work on a Star Wars game and then that Star Wars game not going the way you want, it just kind of feels bad that that's the reason. Like, Star Wars made this company like not work out. Like, I'm pretty sure a few years ago Visceral never even thought they would be working on a Star Wars game because EA just, like, you know, kind of recently, not recently, but kind of recently got the Star Wars license. If you think about game development takes, like, you know, 5 to 2 years, depending on the game. So maybe 5 years ago, Visceral wasn't even thinking about ever working on a Star Wars title. They might have been thinking of working on something completely different up to this timeline. Then EA came to them and said, hey, stop whatever you're doing. Work on Star Wars. Forget Dead Space. Forget whatever else. We got the big Star Wars license. You have to work on this. And then they make them work on that, and it doesn't go the way that EA plans in the time frame they want for. Because, you know, with all the Star Wars games that EA is making right now, they got to be all different and unique and be all their own things. And of course, they all have to be really high quality titles. But at the same time, we could even say with Battlefront 2, with the whole entire loot box situation, where Battlefront 2 progression system is based around you opening up random packs to hopefully get that star card, that thing you want to play with. So it's like, it goes one way, but then it's still its own messed up system either way. So I'm like, I would have just preferred Visceral to put out new IPs. I mean, the biggest new IP I'm thinking about right now from EA is Anthem. Besides that, I can't, off the top of my head, please correct me. I would love for somebody in the comments tell me another really big upcoming new IP from EA. I can't think of anything other than Anthem. And I think that's kind of sad. And the main reason I think it's sad is because if you go back into, like, you know, the generations, PlayStation 2, Xbox 360, and so on, you know, you could think of EA coming out with new IPs every, you know, year with really cool stuff. Like, you know, oh, shoot, EA's doing that? EA actually earns the second biggest publisher. I think they're the second behind Activision. I think there's a second. They might be first now. I'm not sure. But either ways, I thought they would earn that. But no, it's just Anthem. And I'm not saying I'm not excited for Anthem, but besides Anthem, everything else is just so well known, so cookie cutter. The Maddens, the FIFAs, the you know, I'm trying to say to you guys the stuff that you want to expect from EA. Now, I would love for them to be coming out with Visceral with a brand new IP or something interesting, but to see this studio be shuttered into just the developers going all over the place, some getting fired, laid off, and some going to move on to help out with the Star Wars project, It's kind of sad, and I don't want to see that happen in the video game industry more and more. I would hope that with what's going on right now with these developers like EA putting all these loot boxes into their games, getting all these whales, as they like to call them, to give out these extra amount of money, they would be having enough cash in the background to be like, hey, we could put all this loot box money that we're getting from the whales that are spending $1,000 on loot boxes, and actually, you know, all these thousands, let's invest it into more new IP. Let's invest it into another Dead Space game. How about a smaller Dead Space title? Not the full thing. Why can't it be like something smaller, like for $30? I mean, the one good thing I can say EA has been doing, and this, technically, I'm not giving EA full credit for it, because all they're doing is publishing, is when they're working with those new, the smaller developers to make those smaller type of games. Like the game that's going to be coming out where it's like basically a split screen view and you're going to be playing with two different characters. And last year, where you were able to play with Yarny, the little tiny yarn character, like they published that. They worked with the developer to publish that. But that's not an EA internal game. That's them going to an indie studio and saying, hey, that looks cool. We want to be connected to that. We want to be known that EA made that happen, but really the studio was already working on that game. You made a deal with them, and the deal terms, from what the EA explained, and developers that work with EA, is very favorable to those developers who are smaller indie title developers. Like, it's very favorable to them, and I don't blame them for wanting to work with EA when EA is doing so much for them. And I think EA is doing it in a smart business move, because on paper it looks like, oh, this game has the EA logo on it, and to the gaming community as a whole, like, oh, the EA's putting all these old new originals, cool stuff, getting great reviews, because Yarny got great reviews, people love it, and EA's name is getting mentioned around that, generating good buzz about EA. EA's not the worst company ever anymore. But for more of us astute gamers, the people who look into the small detail, who's been following this industry for such a long time, will realize that, no, EA, we know what you did there. It's very blatant and obvious. Like, I mean, you're just trying to get yourself connected to that game. It's not your game. It's not what your internal studios are working on. It's not what Visceral's were working on, because Visceral was working on a Star Wars title. You didn't like how that Star Wars title was developing in the time frame it had to be developed. And of course, yeah, you got to remember this, guys. Eventually, Disney might want to send that Star Wars license that EA has right now to another company. So EA is going to try to chunk out as much Star Wars quality at a high quality. I do really feel like EA will try to put high quality into those Star Wars games. Doesn't mean that's going to stop them from including things that we hate, like the loot boxes system for random, instead of having a real upgrade system. But they're going to try to put money into it, make high quality, but at the same time that might be hindering their own new IP creativity. And I'm just going to say it right now, if Anthem somehow fails, I wouldn't be surprised if EA pulls back on making even more new IPs. I wouldn't be surprised at all. I'm just going to end it out and say best luck to everybody who worked at Visceral. It's sad to see you go. You worked on some games I really did enjoy over the last few years. Even back, like I said, back into the PS2, GameCube, and Xbox One original time frame. Alright, guys? Let me know what you guys think about this in the comment section below. Were you a fan of anything that... It doesn't even matter if you're a fan. I think you guys can understand what I'm trying to say here. It would be nice for EA to have been keep the studio around and have them work on even something a little bit fresher, something newer. And it's just sad to see them go, man. Video game developers shutting down doesn't seem to be good for the video game industry at all, and I don't want it to happen. Less games is not a good thing. Less studios are not a good thing for us. We want more games. We want more variety in games. The gaming industry is growing. More people are playing games than ever before, and with more developers, that's a more of a variety type of game we could play. Like, I'm just going to, one little thing, I think that something like what Ubisoft did with like Nintendo with Mario's and Rabbids, like if Ubisoft, the studio that worked on that, if that studio was shut down years ago, they would have never been able to, like just things like that don't get to happen. Like, you just need to have a lot of studios with a lot of different ideas. The person who thought of that is awesome. It's just an awesome concept just to be able to see something like that able to happen. And I like the idea that EA is working on a Star Wars game, but I think that shouldn't hinder them from neglecting some of their other franchises, like the Dead Space franchise. I mean, if they still own the Dante's Inferno IP. That Dante Inferno was perfectly good. I mean, those type of games can still be fun, but maybe everything just needs to have some type of connected hook. Everything needs to have some way of putting microtransaction. Now, I don't want this to turn into a microtransaction conversation. I just want to say, it's sad to see you go, Visceral. I'm going to miss you, and I'm going to miss the titles that I played from you, and I was hoping to see more in the future. Best of luck to everybody over at EA Visceral, which is no more. Peace out, guys.